Good evening, open source fiddler. How are you? My software says 3 people in chat, so I know who one of you is. I don't know the other 2, but good evening. So, how have you been? How was your Sunday, and why are you on a live stream on YouTube in the Sunday evening, or maybe it's daytime on your end, I don't know, depending on your time zone, or maybe you're in the middle of the night somewhere in Australia, who knows. Vladimir Mishev says hi, and hi back to you as well. I'm going to say what is this about very, very soon. I'm just waiting for a couple of more people to join in. But actually, we already have enough people. It's already 6. Let me see if I could pull something. Let's go to YouTube, to my page, and let's switch to it. Can you see this? I think you can. Let me see one of my first videos this year. This one here. I have announced some things, right, on my first video, and there was someone who was very eager to find out what is it that I have prepared as new content for this year. Let me just find it, who that was. Happy New Year. I'm sure you'll figure out. Not that guy. Not that guy. Not this one as well. Not this one as well. Well, anyways, okay, I suppose I already spilled the beans here, but let me go back for a second to my face. Open source fiddler, it was an okay day, and I am here to learn something about that GNU/Linux. Okay, so the today's stream is going to be extremely simple. I can promise that. But the follow-up ones are going to build up on it, and they are going to be slightly more complex ones. So what I have wanted for myself, for the first and foremost, is that I wanted to pass some Linux exams in order to get better pay at my work, because partially I do work with Linux servers and similar. And passing various exams gives me, at the very least, more opportunities, right? And in some cases, it gives me more money. Also, if you are getting hired on a new job and you are interested in working with system administration, such as Linux servers or desktops, then passing certain exams is always a good thing, never a bad thing. So sometimes some exams and certifications might not give you an advantage, but they will never give you a disadvantage. It is always a plus in anyone's book if you arrive with what is it, CV, right? I cannot pronounce it in French or whatever. It's never a bad idea to have more exams, right? Open source fiddler, this one will be simple, so we will only do not even AvsScript, something even simpler, I promise. We'll get to that. So, okay, let's go. Let's switch to my other window here. The most, I'm not sure entirely if this one is the most easy, right, Linux exam in the world, but it's very common, right? The Linux Professional Institute, right? So I'm talking about these guys here, LPIC 1 and LPIC 101, 102. So Also very popular are Red Hat exams, RHCE, RHCE, and the other one, I forgot the letters, right? But this doesn't matter. Red Hat one is extremely popular, but it's very focused on Red Hat-based distributions, including the forks of what is it called? Sorry, my brain is Alma Linux, is it, and the Rocky Linux, right? So these are all included in these, but these two are more general. So let's go with opening these guys in two more tabs so I can show it to you. So these are two exams. LPIC 1, version 5, this one was published this year. So this is a brand new one. The brand new version, right? The up-to-date one. So there are 4 major topics in this one, and I don't have a very tight idea how long will this take, but my general idea is that I will go through all of these topics with all of you in chat through multiple weeks, right? So depending on how long it takes for a certain lesson to be, you know, I'm not that skilled with English, but I do my best. So if one lesson takes like one stream session, then we will do another lesson through the second stream session. And if that's the case, it might be up to 5 months to be completely finished with exam 101 before we are all ready to pass the exam, right? You who are watching this, you may not be interested in passing this exam. You might just be interested in seeing what is this about and just drop out of the stream and not come back ever again. As I said in my New Year's video, there will be very few of you who will be interested in this content, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm primarily doing this for myself, but along the way I want to learn together with you. I will read the chat live as we go through the learning material, and some of the things you will know better than I do, and we are going to share the knowledge as best as we can and see where this will take us, right? So you can see that there are 4 topics here: system architecture, the big one, Linux installation and package management, GNU and Unix commands, devices, Linux file system hierarchy standard. But these are not 4 topics, there's much more. So if we stretch the first one, you can see that the first one, that one is for today: determine and configure hardware settings. So that's why I said this will be very simple today. So we can all already determine and configure hardware settings, but it's a good idea not to skip content, because you know, when you learn for the actual exam, there will be certain questions in the exam that go back and touch on the topics that have been discussed in the learning material, and some of the things could be technically easy, but you might not be able to answer them in the actual exam if you haven't gone through the learning material at least once, and then you will remember, okay, this is the actual answer to this question, right, in the exam. Although this question itself might not be that much relevant in your life, you know, but you need to go through the exam, right? No cheating, Mislav says. Yeah, the guy with the gray hat in chat. Vladimir Mishev, this is series will be great. Far as I know, only 102 actually counts for the certificate. 101 is just the first step to it. Yeah, Vladimir, you're correct, but we cannot skip content, right? That's why I opened both of these tabs so I can show you what's up. Jacked Linux user, hello and welcome in. So if we could do just one of these lessons in one stream, then so be it. In the next one, we will do the other one. If this is too easy and we can cram 2 of them in one stream, then why not? You know, if it's easy enough and it doesn't take too much time, then all is good, right? If we can cram all three of these in today's session, also perfectly fine by me if it's perfectly fine by you, right? So it all depends on how long can you hold the concentration and how long can I talk, basically. So one of two, design hard disk layout, install a boot manager, manage shared libraries, use Debian package management, use RPM and Yum package management, Linux as a virtualization guest. So these topics, you can already see that these are a bit harder, and definitely topic 1 or 2 is no way able to be fit in one stream. So the plan is today we will go through the most basic stuff, and we will go through it like completely blindly to see what is waiting for us. And the general idea is if people are going to like it, then I am thinking about doing this every Sunday evening, and for me this is the evening, right? So I might pull it back a little bit at 6 o'clock. Right now it's 8 o'clock for me. So like 2 hours earlier, maybe. We will see what every one of you in the chat says. I am somewhat flexible, but usually I am chilling out in the evening of every Sunday, and usually playing video games or stuff like that. So I was thinking, let's not why not replace video games with something actually useful and that can bring tangible benefits to at least my life, maybe to some of yours, hopefully, and so about that, right? So like one stream per week. You can see work on the command line, process text stream using filters, perform basic file comments using streams, pipes and redirects, create monitor kill processes, etc. And in the 1 of 2, this one is harder. Shells and shell scripting, user interface and desktops, administrative tasks, essential system services, networking fundamentals. This is going to become harder and harder and harder, and it will require digging under the hood much more. And in the end, there is security, and then we are all ready to pass the exam, hopefully. So I have killed the other tab because we are definitely not needing that one anytime soon. For the next Sunday, if that's all right with all of you, I'm going to let's say prepare myself and go through the study by myself before the stream. Any day of the week, it doesn't matter. So when the Sunday comes, I will not only read stuff out loud, but also know everything that I'm talking about up ahead. So basically, I'm going to pretend to be a teacher, but in the essence, I would like all of us to be teachers to ourselves, right? If any one of you knows more than me, I absolutely want you to type in chat and tell me when I'm wrong, or whatever the combination is, right? Vladimir says nothing is hard in 101 except it's covering many ways to do things in many distros. But yeah, I mean, it's not that it's hard, but the problem is that you have to go through the study documentation at least once if you want to be able to answer questions in the exam, right? I have a couple of years ago, actually there might be much more than a couple, like 10 years ago, I tried to get myself hired as a system administrator for a company that only works with Linux. And basically I failed their test. And I thought that I know enough, but the way test was prepared for me is that I was supposed to know, it was a paper test, like pen and paper. I was supposed to know how to do shell scripting and a lot of this stuff, and exact commands like Avg said and you know how to filter out stuff from files. I was supposed to know from my head and not use any of the search engines to help me out, like literally just pen and paper and type, not type, but write which exact command will filter out the lines from this log file that contain this kind of content separated with, like, I don't know, commas, and like take out the third column from a CSV file. You know, it's not a very difficult task, but it's not something that I'm doing very often. So usually I need to check out the manual for every of these commands, and then I can work with it, but not out of my head. So the exams are like that, yeah. This is it, and I have had ocular somewhere here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, we don't need any of this. Let's go back to the beginning. Can we go with page up here? Page up, page down. Okay, version 5. So this is where we are. This is stupid test. Even gurus I know consult manual often. What can I tell you, Vladimir? I am not complaining. I did not get the job. It's fine. They told me I can come back in 3 months if I want to try again. But in the meantime, I got hired somewhere else, and that was about it for that company. I'm fine with that. But where I am currently working, I am in touch with Linux enough that I want to pass some of these exams. After these guys, I will probably try with the Red Hat certification as well. So let's read it. This is the PDF, right? You can freely download it from their website if you like. Determine and configure hardware settings. Okay, so I am going to attempt to read as fast as possible without talking too much mumbo jumbo. They say that the hardness is like 2. I don't believe it, but let's see. So 101.1 and we go now. Concurrent viewers 8. Nice. Enable and disable integrated peripherals, differentiate between the various types of mass storage devices, determine hardware resources for devices. Good enough. Okay, partial list of the used files, terms and utilities. Sysfs, dev, mode probe, ls mode, lspci, lsusb, all good and clear. We all know these commands already. Introduction. Okay, since the early days of electronic computer business and personal computer manufacturers have integrated a variety of hardware parts in their machines, which in turn need to be supported by the operating system. This, of course, sounds too simple, but I promise there are some of these sentences that make sense to be read out loud. That could be overwhelming for from the operating system developer's perspective unless standards for instruction sets and device communications are established by the industry, similar to the standardized abstraction layer provided by the operating system to an application. These standards make it easier to write and maintain an operating system that is not tied to a specific hardware model. However, the complexity of the integrated underlying hardware sometimes requires adjustment on how resources should be exposed to the operating system, so it can be installed and function correctly. Some of these adjustments can be made even without an installed operating system. Most machines offer a configuration utility, BIOS, that can be executed as the machine is turned on. Until the mid-2000s, the configuration utility was implemented in the BIOS, which is Basic Input-Output System, the standard for firmware containing the basic configuration routines found in the x86 motherboards. And from the end of the first decade of the 2000, machines based on the x86 architecture started to replace the BIOS with the new implementation called UEFI, Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. So I could guess that the exam holds questions like what does BIOS means, and then you will click A, B, C, D, like is it basic input output system or or something else that they're trying to trick you into answering these questions. I thought that I saw something in chat moving, but clearly not anything is moving in the chat. So UEFI, which has more sophisticated features for identification, testing, configuration, and firmware upgrades. Despite the change, let me just see where my video camera is, so it doesn't interfere with the text. I could move it a little bit up, right? Is this better for this use case? Configuration and firmware upgrades. Despite the change, it is not uncommon to still call the configuration utility BIOS, as both implementations fulfill the same basic purpose. Further details on similarity and differences between BIOS and UEFI will be covered in later lesson. Device activation. The system configuration utility is presented after pressing a specific key when the computer is turned on. Which key to press varies from manufacturer to manufacturer, but usually it's the delete button on your keyboard if it's a desktop PC, or one of the function keys such as F2 or F12. F12 is like standard on Lenovo laptops at least. The key combination to use is often displayed in the power on screen. In the BIOS setup utility, it is possible to enable and disable integrated peripherals, activate basic error protection, and change hardware settings like interrupt requests, IRQ, and direct memory access, DMA. Changing these settings is rarely needed on modern machines, but it may be necessary to make adjustments to address specific issues. Okay, I have some chat open which is moving in front of my face. I just hid it because I don't want to watch other chats that are not mine. There we go. There are RAM technologies, for example, that are compatible with faster data transfer rates than the default values. So it's recommended to change it to the values specified by the manufacturer. So this is actually very common in modern PCs. And usually you need to go to the BIOS to enable XMP profile or whatever it's called on your motherboard, because like RAM modules, like DDR4 modules come in like 3200 mega transfers per second or 3600. These are relatively common ones in DDR4, but when you first plug them in, they fall back to a default value like 2006, like 2666, right? Mega transfers per second. And then you need to turn on the XMP profile to work, to tell the motherboard to work, to use the profiles that are stored in RAM modules for higher speeds. Usually that helps a lot with some computational stuff, such as video games. Some CPUs offer features that may not be required for the particular installation and can be deactivated. Disabled features will reduce power consumption and can increase system protection, such as CPU features containing known bugs can also be disabled. If the machine is equipped with many storage devices, it is important to define which one has the correct bootloader and should be the first entry in the device boot order. The operating system may not load if the incorrect device comes first in the BIOS boot verification list. Device inspection in Linux. Once devices are correctly identified, it is up to the operating system to associate the corresponding software components required by them. When a hardware feature is not working as expected, it is important to identify where exactly the problem is happening. When a piece of hardware is not detected by the operating system, it is most likely that the part or the port to which is connected is defective. When the hardware part is correctly detected but still does not properly work, there may be a problem on the operating system side. Therefore, one of the first steps when dealing with hardware-related issues is to check if the operating system is properly detecting your device. There are two basic ways to identify hardware resources on a Linux system: to use specialized commands or to read specific file inside special file systems. So guys, where do you stand with these commands? These two essential commands to identify connected devices in Linux system are lspci. This will list your connected PCI cards, right? Shows all devices currently connected to peripheral component interconnect bus. PCI devices can be either a component attached to the motherboard, like a disk controller, or expansion card fitted into a PCI slot, like an external graphics card. lsusb, same thing, but for the USB attached devices. So sometimes this may be a little bit confusing because some of the devices, for example, on laptops, often function through the USB. For example, like a touchpad is connected to the USB bus, but it's integrated into your laptop, and one might think that it's not a USB device, because by USB we usually think about stuff that is connected from the outside, right? Yeah. Okay, I can read the chat. Hi guys, well, this is partially true. Device can be detected yet have a faulty part. Let me just maximize my chat. Okay, this is not good. I'm just increasing my font so I can read easier. There we go. Much easier to read now. Stevie says, my brother. Okay, we can test some of these. We are now not on the external computer because I thought that we're not going to need one. If we will start needing it, I will just plug it in quickly and boot it up. So this is my PC, which I am streaming from, right? So if you go with lspci, there is a whole bunch of stuff here. You can see AMD Starship Matiz root complex. Matiz, I think, is something regarded with the chipset. Host bridges. This is something that is usually not a content of a discussion. Usually you deal with graphics cards or sound blasters, not so much lately, and similar stuff, right? Data fabric. Iceblade, oh, I catch you live this time. Very nice, very nice. Iceblade, we are going to learn something and perhaps pass a certain exam in the future. You can rewind the stream later to watch the introduction. AData technology, this is my PCI Express SSD connected. Okay, this is my USB 3 controller on the motherboard. Ethernet controller, Realtek branded. You can see which driver it is using. I mean, which model it is. So what can we see here? Navi. This is a part of my graphics card, I would say. All of this Navi related stuff, because that's my graphics card, 6800 XT, right? Just another user says, hi and greetings from Argentina. Are you gonna get some Linux certification or what? Just another user, yes, I'm going to get myself certified, but the idea is to go through all of the Lupitz LPCI, no, LP, I don't know how to spell it. Basically, let me show you. Where is it? This LPIC exam, this is what we are going to pass through as fast as we can. Not today. Maybe it will take a couple of months before I can get certified, and hopefully some of you as well. Yeah, I'm just bad at spelling. That's all. lsusb. Let's see what's on my USB hookup. Root hub, System 76 smart hub, which is a part of my keyboard. This is my audio interface that I'm using for this microphone. It is connected via USB externally. This is my mouse. Red Hat certification is popular too. Yeah, I'm going to attempt that one after I get certified with this one. Logitech StreamCam, the one that you are watching me through. My keyboard, of course. What is this? More parts of my keyboard. Cooler master. I actually have no clue what this is. But clearly a part of my system, right? The output of commands lspci and lsusb consists of a list of all PCI and USB devices identified by the operating system. However, the device may not be fully operational yet after you see them listed, because every hardware part requires a software component to control the corresponding device. This software component is called a kernel module, and it can be part of the official Linux kernel or added separately from other sources. So a tiny bit of history. When I started with Linux, there were no kernel modules. This technology did not exist at the time, and this might not be relevant to this exam, but it might be interesting to some of you who are younger, that in the beginning, the way kernel worked is, of course, you would need drivers like kernel modules are today to power up all of your hardware devices. But the way you would always do that on typical Linux distribution back in the day is that you would install your distribution, then you would download the kernel source, then you would open up the kernel configuration interface. I think it was ncurses interface. You would find, you would list what your device is, and then you would find the driver in the kernel. You would have to tick it like a check mark. And when you're finished adding all of the drivers in the kernel, then you would compile the kernel with the all of the drivers in it that you need for this particular PC. And once you finished compiling your kernel, and then there was a procedure on how to install the kernel that you have just freshly compiled, and after the reboot your hardware would just work. Later on they invented kernel modules. These are the drivers that are being able to be dynamically loaded while the system is running. Iceblade says fan controller, maybe. That's possible. Linux kernel modules related to hardware devices. Stevie says, wow, it's so much easier now for us younger folk. Yeah. I mean, these were the beginnings, right? You would have to put the driver for the graphics card, for your modem, for your network card, for your sound blaster, basically everything, right? Nowadays, you can just install Linux to a hard drive and then take out the hard drive, plug it into a completely different computer, and it will boot up. Most of the distros will just boot up and detect the hardware that is now changed. Where were we? Drivers for Linux, however, are not always supplied by the device's manufacturer, whilst some manufacturers provide their own binary drivers to be installed separately. NVIDIA, many drivers are written by independent developers. Historically, parts that work on Windows, for example, may not have a counterpart kernel module for Linux. Nowadays, Linux-based operating systems have strong hardware support, and most devices work effortlessly. Commands directly related to hardware often require root privileges to execute, or will only show limited information when executed by a normal user. So it may be necessary to log in as root or to execute the command via sudo. You all know what sudo is, of course. The following output of a command lspci, for example, shows a few identified devices. Okay, VGA controller, a network controller. This is something that we have already passed live on my computer. The output of such commands can be tens of lines long, as we have witnessed. 5 minutes ago. So the previous and next examples contain only the section of interest. The hex numbers at the beginning of each line are the unique addresses of the corresponding PCI device. The command lspci shows more details about a specific device if its address is given with option -s accompanied by option -v. So if you go with lspci -s and the hex address and -v, I think that's verbose, you will get a lot more information about this particular device. Do you guys want me to go through all of these examples, or is it pretty clear from the PDF, right? I mean, if I execute this on my command line, we will get the pretty much same output just for my device locally. So it will take up some of the time from the stream, and I personally think that it's not very relevant for this. It's easy content, right? I guess you all agree, since you're not saying anything in chat. The output now shows many more details of the device on address 420. It is a network controller whose internal name is Rallying Corporation, RT, whatever. Okay, this part is actually sometimes important. When you identify a device, some of these naming conventions will tell you a little bit more about the device. So 8.2.11g is the wireless Wi-Fi standard that is now fairly obsolete, right? It was one of the first ones. I used to deal with this when dealing with GPU pass-through. Okay, I can understand that. PCI subsystem is associated with the device brand and model. Linksys and the name 54G. So that stands. I mean, 802.11g is the wireless standard that goes up to 54 megabits per second. And this is why the name here of the device is 54G. And can be helpful for diagnostic purposes, so that you know what are you dealing with, right? The kernel module can be identified in the line kernel driver in use, which shows the module RT61PCI. From all the gathered information, it is correct to assume that the device was identified. A matching kernel module was loaded. The device should be ready to use. It is the IEEE standard for 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi devices. Yes, but also there is 802.11a, which is also 54G, but 54 megabits, but on the 5 gigahertz band. Usually G and A are controlled via the same driver level, if I can put it this way. For example, if you will deal with FreeBSD anytime soon, their Wi-Fi drivers are fairly behind Linux, and they only support 54 megabit speeds, both 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz, right? So 802.11g and A with the same driver. The device should be ready for use. Another way to verify which kernel module is in use for the specified device is provided by the option -k, available in more recent versions of lspci. lspci -s device and k. Maybe we can do this with our graphics card, right? lspci, grab my card. Okay, so what we want to do is what this is telling us, lspci -s for the hex device code 28.00.0 minus k, just to see what we are getting here, right? Maybe we can maximize again. VGA compatible controller, advanced micro devices. This is something that we already had up there, but now we're getting subsystem and kernel driver induce AMD GPU. This is very useful for diagnostics later, and kernel modules AMD GPU. So later on you will see that the way when you're dealing with the system manually, right? So when you don't just install a distribution that does everything for you, the way you deal with kernel drivers is when you detect the device. Apologies, this will keep happening if I talk too much. When you deal with the devices manually, you will need to know which exact kernel module you want to load. There are certain commands that are needed to load and download modules, right? And this is the name of the module that you're loading and unloading. And I think we are pretty close to that, to finding out that. For the chosen device, an NVIDIA GPU board, lspci tells that the module in use is named NVIDIA at line kernel driver and use NVIDIA, and all corresponding kernel modules are listed in the kernel modules, Nuvo, NVIDIA DRM, and NVIDIA. For those of you unfamiliar, Nuvo is the open source NVIDIA driver that rarely people use because it's written by the community, right? It's completely free software. So it's to be expected that is underperforming quite a lot. So if you want to pull the maximum out of your NVIDIA card, there is a very, very high possibility that you will be using proprietary driver, but there is always Nuvo, who is getting better every year. And it is an alternative, right? Vladimir says, true, in FreeBSD, best way for now is to run Linux driver in BHY VM pass-through. Talking about Wi-Fi, of course. Okay. Command lsusb is similar to lspci, but lists USB information exclusively. Good. So we have some example here, which is something that we have already done in my CLI. Command lsusb shows the available USB channels and the devices connected to them. As with lspci option, -v displays more detailed output. I'm pretty sure this means verbose. Specific device can be selected for inspection by providing its ID to the option -d. So one of the things that you will learn pretty soon, and I didn't even read this PDF until today, to be honest, but I can already see where this leads. When you are troubleshooting USB, USB is like it's a serial bus, right? It has a hub to which you're plugging in stuff, and into the hub you can plug in another hub, and in some cases you will want to identify which device is working at which USB speeds, because you have USB 1, 2, 3, 3.1, etc. USB 4, of course. So one of the things that I have been troubleshooting for my keyboard, because I have a System 76 keyboard with 4-port USB hub, is that I often plug in my USB sticks. And recently I bought this relatively fast USB 3 stick, which I use to transfer stuff from my phone via USB-C to my PC. And I want to be able to use the speed of my USB 3 interface. But my motherboard is from 2018, and I have only one USB 3 port on it, which is something that I have discovered after the troubleshooting started, right? I just plugged in my keyboard into a first port that I found at the back of my computer, and I thought that that's it, right? And I plugged in the stick into my keyboard, and the transfer was really slow. So in order to fix the problem, one of the ways to do it is brute force, like just go with your keyboard through the one USB port, the second one, third one, fifth one, etc., and test the speeds on every port. Or what I did is to troubleshoot the USB hubs, right? So there is a way for these commands to tell you in which is the speed that this device is supporting at the moment. So you can troubleshoot it in a more how do I put it? I wanted to say professional, but I meant engineering way, right? So providing more details about the device with -D. Let's try that. Let's try that on my keyboard. lsusb. Let's grab system 76. Okay, launch configure a keyboard smart hub. So one of these devices is interesting to us at the moment. Let's go with verbose and D, and let's go through, I guess let's go through all of these devices to see which is which. 33844216. Okay, so this one is telling us a lot of stuff, right? Let's go. What exam are we getting? LPIC 1. Yeah, you are correct. And we have just started, like literally. Let's see what can we find out about the first part of my keyboard. System 76, microchip, smart hub, max power, be length. I'm looking if I can recognize anything of particular value for this stream at the moment. Interface, transfer type, packet size, no. Let's go with the second one. 0001. This is keyboard itself. There is a lot of stuff here. ID vendor, ID manufacturer. We all know which one it is already. Max power, 500 milliamperes. Okay. This is good to know. Some of these things are very useful, some of these things are not very useful, but as always, it is good to go through these things at least once, so it stays somewhere in the back of your head. Like I like when the manual asks something of you, then you might be able to remember, I have seen this somewhere. Oh yeah, it was in the details of the USB device. So there is nothing particularly interesting here right now, except max power. That was kind of useful. And the third interface of my keyboard is another hub, 7216. 7216. Let's see, what is this telling us? This is important. Negotiated speed, super speed plus 10 gigabits per second. One of the things that have caused my stick being plugged into the keyboard to transfer really, really slow. Full speed here. Okie dokie, let's go ahead. With option -T, command lsusb shows the current USB device's mapping in a hierarchical tree. Let's give it a go. Give us the tree. Give us the tree. Okay. So class root, hub, class human interface, a lot of human interfaces here. Class audio, sound device. These are actually speeds, just for you to know. USB speeds, right? This is the 480 megs. Which one is that? This is USB 2, I think, and this might be USB 1, if I'm not mistaken. 10,000 megs. This one is USB super speed. This is probably our port where the keyboard is plugged in. I think that's the only one that is actual super speed. What is 1.5 megs? I completely forgot all these slow speeds. It's possible that not all devices have corresponding modules associated with them. The communication with certain devices can be handled by the application directly without the intermediation provided by a module. Nevertheless, there is significant information in the output provided by lsusb-t. When a matching module exists, its name appears at the end of the line for the device, as in driver equals BT-USB. Let me just check if we had any of that. Driver equals sound USB audio. Okay, so these are the kernel modules already loaded. The device class identifies as general category like human interface device, wireless, vendor specific class, mass storage, among others. Actually, I could plug in mass storage device right now just as a test, because no mass storage is plugged in into my computer right now, and now there is. So this is my SanDisk 32 gigs. Let's see where is it hooked up. You can already see it here, mass storage driver running at 500 megs speed, and it's plugged into my 10 gig hub, right? So the USB stick itself cannot go beyond USB, which maybe you guys can quickly search it for me on the internet. I don't want to bother with it right now, but which USB version is 5 gigs and which USB version is 10 gigs? I would say this could fall under USB 3 and this one could fall under USB 3.1, like a educated guess. Integrated System Solution Corporation Bluetooth adapter. Okay, so that's one of the examples. It's common to have a large set of loaded kernel modules in a standard Linux system at any time. The preferable way to interact with them is to use the commands provided by the kmod package, which is a set of tools to handle common tasks with Linux kernel modules like insert, remove, list, check properties, resolve dependencies, and aliases. The lsmod command, for example, shows all currently loaded modules. This is a really useful command. 30 is 5 gigs. Okay, so my educated guess was educated well enough. Let's go with lsmod to list all of the currently loaded modules. I'm just checking. Oh, the first line is a bit longish. Never mind. Let's amplify it all the way. So we can see that I have a whole bunch of modules loaded here. Twilight Tracker, I'm curious, was your choice of LPIC1 on a whim, or is there a specific reason why you're interested in this one? It's not on a whim. I have decided half a year ago that I am going to pass this exam in order to increase my potential at work to get better opportunities and more money at work. And At first, I was going to learn it on my own, and later the second thing that I decided very recently was that I'm not going to learn this on my own, but rather to share with all of you who are interested in watching the stream. So we will see how this works, right? It is the first stream, and the second one might be entirely different depending on the feedback on the first one, right? Vladimir says Open Mandriva just got updated. Very good, but we are not going to stray from this topic of this stream. I will appreciate, though, if you would leave that comment on my actual Mandriva video. One of the things that has been slightly better back in the day when modules were not a thing is that you would only select the actual modules that you need, and basically the system would boot up faster. But today computers are so fast that the difference is minuscule, right? Okay, so we have a whole bunch of modules here. Let's not deal with that right now. The output of command ls mod is divided into 3 columns. Module name, of course, you have already had a chance to see that. A size, amount of RAM occupied by the modules in bytes, and used by depending modules. So I'm not sure if you have already detected this, but for example, TTM, who knows what that is? You would have to search it online to understand what TTM is. But when you see that it depends on AMD GPU being loaded, then there might be a hint on what that could be, right? And how much is it taking? I suppose 100 megabytes, because it says in bytes. Actually, if it's bytes, if this is bytes, then it's not megabytes. So this could be then 15 megabytes here. This could be 15 megabytes, and this could be 0.1 megabytes then. Stevie, sorry for going off topic, but could you give your thoughts on Open Mandriva with Cosmic DE? I really don't want to derail the learning, but just as a quick reply, it's in alpha state. It's not working very well. The developers have said both to me and to many other people that it's not working very well, and it doesn't have a maintainer. The Cosmic spin of the Open Mandriva currently has no maintainer. So it is not recommended unless you want to check it out. But if you want to check it out, then I would suggest downloading Pop OS 24.04 alpha. That one will be much more integrated into the Cosmic DE by itself. Okay, so we have already learned that the second column is how much RAM is being occupied by the module. So that's useful, right? Some modules require other modules to work properly, as in the case with modules for audio devices. SND HDA codec requires these modules to be loaded. Stevie says, thank you. You are welcome. The third column, used by, shows the module that require the module in the first column to properly work. Many modules of the Linux sound architecture preferred by SND, prefixed by SND, are interdependent. When looking for problems during system diagnostics, it may be useful to unload specific modules currently loaded. Command mode probe can be used to both load and to unload kernel modules. To be honest, I used mode probe to load previously when there was actual need to do that frequently, but I think I used rm mod to remove it from the memory, but now I kind of forgot. Let's do it the way the education text tells us to do. To unload a module and its related modules, as long as they are not being used by a running process, command mode probe -r, that could be remove, should be used. For example, to unload module SND HDA Intel, the module for HDA Intel audio device and other modules related to the sound system, mode probed -r and the module name. So some of these things I might want to demonstrate live on the next stream, but in this specific one I don't want to unload any drivers from the device from which I'm streaming from, because unloading any driver might result in my stream crashing. So for the next time we might be using an external device, this laptop here, right? If you guys really want to see how unloading modules work live, I can quickly boot up this laptop. It's already connected actually, and it has OpenMandriva loaded, installed. In addition to loading and unloading kernel modules while the system is running, it is possible to change module parameters when the kernel is being loaded. Not so different from passing options to commands. Each module accepts specific parameters, but most times the default values are recommended and extra parameters are not needed. However, in some cases it is necessary to use parameters to change the behavior of a module to work as expected. Using the module name as the only argument, command mode info shows a description, the file, the author, the license, the identification, the dependencies, and the available parameters for the given module. Maybe we can, we'll get to that. I wanted to give it a go. Customized parameters for a module can be made persistent by including them in the file. It is, I will read this in Croatian. It makes me more comfortable. So /etc/modeprobe.conf or in individual files with the extension .conf in the directory etc modeprobe.d. Option -p will make command mode info display all available parameters and ignore the other information. So I want to give this a go, and let's put this aside for a moment. AMD GPU, DRM display helper, NVMe core, USB HID, video, AMD GPU. Okay, this one is really interesting. How much is it taking? 15 megabytes. Okay, let's go with the AMD GPU. Mod info -p and AMD GPU. I'm copy pasting by double clicking. This is already in the clipboard, and then you just press the middle mouse button to paste it. That's how most Linux terminals work. Let's clear it and get it one more time to see all of the data that we're getting from AMD GPU. We are not going to go through all of this. VRAM limit, restrict VRAM for testing in megabytes, restrict visible RAM for testing, size of kernel in megabytes, lockup. There is a whole bunch of things that I cannot possibly understand at this point, and I'm not going to pretend to be able to troubleshoot the graphics card except loading the driver and downloading it. Okay. This is what we got in my test. The sample output shows all the parameters available for the module Nuvo, an open source free software kernel module provided by the Nuvo project as an alternative to the proprietary drivers for NVIDIA GPU cards. Option mode set. Would you recommend OpenMandriva over Mint? Huh. I don't know yet, to be honest. At this point, if you have watched my video review from yesterday, I'm all in. I'm interested to testing it more on my own skin, and so far so good. However, Linux Mint is not an actual distribution. Linux Mint is actually the Ubuntu. So what Mint is doing, they are putting their own desktop environment on Ubuntu and disabling some things from Ubuntu, repackaging some stuff that Ubuntu is packaging as snaps, such as Firefox. Mint is repackaging that as deb files. They're not. I'm not going to be overly negative about it, but they are simply not an actual distribution. They are a somewhat harder spin of Ubuntu, right? So whatever Ubuntu is doing, Mint is doing the same because they are the same, right? Unless we are talking about Ubuntu Debian edition, then you got the core Debian underneath and just slapped another desktop environment on top of it. So from that perspective, would I recommend Ubuntu or OpenMandriva, which is its own thing? It's not based on anything above, right? So on the same level are Ubuntu and OpenMandriva. Maybe even OpenMandriva and Debian, right? So because Ubuntu is somewhat based on Debian, right? It is a bit convoluted to answer this question. I don't know. From the basic user perspective, I think both are good. But after a couple of months, we will see how that goes. In a couple of days, there will be a rock, OpenMandriva Rock version 6 release for those of you who don't like rolling. So maybe wait for that one. I would recommend at least trying it. The sample output shows all of the parameters available for module Nuvo. We have already read this. Option mode set, for example, allows to control whether display resolution and depth will be set in the kernel space rather than user space. Adding options Nuvo mode set equals 0 to the file at its modeprobe dnuvo.conf will disable the mode set kernel feature. These are some things that I would not expect to be in the exam itself, but are good to read at least once. So once that you get to the point where you're troubleshooting Nuvo, you will be going through another documentation which will tell you very similar sentences to these. If a module is causing problems, the file blacklist.conf in this folder can be used to block the loading of the kernel module. This is something that I have actually used quite a few times. You just put the name of the module in the file and upon reboot it will simply not load. One of the good examples of this is exactly the NVIDIA card. I'm not sure if it's mentioned here, but a lot of times Nuvo driver will load automatically with a lot of distributions such as Fedora. And once you install the proprietary NVIDIA driver, in some circumstances, Nuvo driver might automatically load again if you haven't done everything correctly. So a pretty good way to make absolutely sure that the proprietary driver will load and not the open source one is to simply blacklist the one that you don't want loaded. The same can be done vice versa if you have both installed and you want to troubleshoot something that is faulty with the proprietary one. You can blacklist that one and reboot, and you will have a clean boot with only the one that you want loaded, right? This action is required when the proprietary module NVIDIA is installed and the default module Nuvo should be set aside. Okay, I guess I just said that. You can modify the modprobd blacklist.com file that already exists on the system by default. However, the preferred method is to create a separate configuration file, a module name.conf, in this directory that will contain settings specific only to the given kernel module. So you don't convolute this one file here, right? Information files and device files. The commands lspci, lsusb, and lsmod act as frontends to read hardware information stored by the operating system. This kind of information is kept in special files in the directories /prots and /sys. These directories are mount points to file systems not present in a device partition, but only in RAM space used by the kernel to store runtime configuration and information on running processes. Vladimir Mishev did not know about modprob blacklist. That is useful, thank you. You're welcome. Such file systems are not intended for conventional file storage, so they are called pseudo file systems and only exist while the system is running. The prots directory contains files with information regarding running processes and hardware resources. Some of the important files in the prots for inspecting hardware are prots CPU info. So I am absolutely sure that how many of you are on the stream? 7. At least half of you, like at least 3 of you know what this file is showing. CPU info, right? Lists detailed information about the CPU found by the operating system. So if you want to know which CPU you have and how many cores it has, it will list you. Your CPU specs, and if your CPU has 4 cores and 4 threads, I mean 2 threads per core, right? It will list the information of your CPU 8 times in a row. Let me give you an example. Prots CPU info. So basically you will see the information about my CPU 16 times in a row because I have 8 cores. So up above, processor 0, AMD, Ryzen 5800X 3D, and the flags that it supports. These are all the, you remember MMX features? This is something from the Pentium age. And all of the newer things that this CPU supports, right? For example, these flags are important if you're running latest Red Hat server operating system. This is Red Hat version 9. Red Hat version 9 requires that you use a modern CPU that has some of these hardware flags built into the architecture of the CPU. So for the Red Hat 9, you cannot use an older CPU. I don't know by heart, but there are some CPU that you cannot use, which, for example, the latest Ubuntu Server Edition does support. So if you're dealing with an older server and installing the latest operating system, there will be a moment where you will need to understand what exactly your CPU supports in terms of features, because you might be caught in the moment where your operating system is hanging literally on install because the kernel cannot handle this CPU. So processor 1, same thing all over again. It's just a second core. Processor 2, etc. And the last one is 15. There we go. The last one is 15 because that's 8 cores 2 times per core. Prots interrupts a list of numbers of the interrupts per I/O device for each CPU. Okay, so let's examine what this does live. Prots interrupts. So, as it says, a list of numbers of the interrupts per input-output device for each CPU. I'm not going to pretend I can decode this information, but let's trust this document that we are going to meet this file again. Prots DMA lists the registered direct memory access channels in use. Nothing, just for cascade. I have no clue what that is. Files inside the sys directory have similar roles to those in prots. However, the sys directory has the specific purpose of storing device information and kernel data related to hardware, whilst prots also contains information about various kernel data structures, including running processes and configuration. Let me see what is in prots and what is in sys. Okay, so in prots, we have like CPU info, crypto devices, disk stats, mount folder, or is this, no, this is not a folder, this is a link. These are folders here. And the sys directory gives us block bus class, dev devices, firmware, hypervisor, kernel module, power, etc. So the sys power might be interesting on a laptop. I'm just trying to recall some of these things. Mem sleep, cut mem sleep, s2 idle, deep, resume, state, freeze mem disk. I forgot which of these files exactly, but you know, by default, when you install any modern Linux distribution on a laptop, and when you close the lid, it will go to sleep. That's pretty much the default behavior on most modern Linux distributions. But sometimes you want to know what's going on. And if you want to troubleshoot sleeping on your laptop or battery life during sleep, you might not be sure in which state your laptop has entered, because there is not just one sleep state, there are more of them. For example, you must have heard, at least from the Windows world, that there is a sleep state in which you can receive notifications for email, and they are saying that your computer is sleeping, but it's connected to the network. So that's one of the different sleep states, because there are various different low and lower power sleep states, right? So in most cases, you want the deepest possible sleep state where only RAM is working to save your system memory so it is able to wake up, but you want the longest possible sleep runtime on one battery life, right? And you don't really care about networking being used when the laptop is sleeping. So if it seems that your laptop is sleeping for far too short time on your battery, then you might be able to pipe some of the words into some of these files. I don't know by heart, but I can assure that some of these files maybe mem sleep. You just like echo, like S3. This is not the actual command, it's a little bit different, but you just pull it into the sys power and some of these files. You just literally insert the word into a file, and as soon as you put it into one of these files, which is a pseudo file, your laptop will go to sleep, and it will go to sleep to exact same sleep state that you have sent it to by using the exact word, right? And then you can use different sleep states to measure how long the battery lasts in each one of them. So then you will know what your distribution is doing by default, simply by comparing the battery life, right? Where were we? Has the specific purpose of storing device information and kernel data related to hardware was, okay, this is something that we read. Another directory related to devices in a standard Linux system is /dev. Every file inside dev is associated with a system device, particularly storage devices. A legacy IDE hard drive, for example, when connected to the motherboards, a first IDE channel is represented by the file dev HDA. How many of you did not know this? I would be very surprised if anyone will answer that you haven't heard of this device. There is 10 of you in chat. I want all 10 of you to tell me that you all know about this device. So dev HDA is the first IDE hard drive. Every partition in this disk will be identified by the number following the name of the device. So dev HDA 1 is the first partition, HDA 2 is the second partition, up to the last partition found. Removable devices are handled. Iceblade had no clue. Okay, then pay attention. Removable devices, I don't want to show you the example on my computer just yet because I don't have IDE devices. This is a modern computer which will have slightly different naming scheme. Removable devices are handled by the udev subsystem, which creates the corresponding devices in dev. The Linux kernel captures the hardware detection event and passes it to the udev process, which then identifies the device and dynamically creates corresponding files in dev using predefined rules. So before we read ahead, let me SDA for SATA, yes, exactly. So ls/dev. Let's see what we have on my computer. There are some things that you will recognize immediately. Let's go from behind. Video cards, not video cards. These are USB. This is the video device. Video 0, probably my Logitech camera. What's this random USB TTYs, not important. SDA, these are SATA devices. NVMe, you know what NVMe is, I suppose. If not, NVMe devices are faster version of usually SSD devices, but don't get fooled. An old school Rust hard drive can also be on NVMe device. Very rare, but not impossible. Just don't get confused. So these are usually NVMe fast SSDs, and on SDA this is SATA, where you can find both Rust spinners and SATA SSDs, right? So these are my devices that I have on my system. And if you can see, there is SDA, one of my SATA drives, and there is SDB, another one of my SATA drives. Let's plug in the USB stick once more, and let me show you what happens. I just plugged it in. Let's wait for the system to detect it. And let's list all of the devices here again. And now we have SDC as well. So the udev has detected the new device. It is on USB, but it has placed it under SD nomenclature, right? And dmsg, let's go with sudo dmsg Do you know what the message command is? If not, this is a command that will list the, how do I put it? When kernel is booting up, it will output a lot of things what it is doing while it is booting up. And this will be logged into your log files because you, in most cases, you will not see this. In most distribution, this is hidden, but it is saved in a certain file. But what you might be doing with the message command is when you're plugging in dynamic devices such as dynamic, usually USB devices, right? You plug in a camera or USB stick, you want to see where it ended up. And for example, the message, the last line in this should be my USB stick getting detected and mapped as SDC. So see here, SDC device was detected, attached SCSI removable disk. Let me show you the message /tail -follow. What did I do wrong? Why is it not following? Help me out with this command. Why is it not following? It should not exit back to the CLI. -F is what bothers me here. This is not how it works. No, it must be the other way around. The message /tail. I cannot do that if I'm not root. Okay, sudo. Maybe the whole thing. What did I do wrong? What am I doing wrong with tail command? Sudo -i. Okay, what sudo -i is doing is it's like superuser, right? It switches to the root, so we are now root. But -i is telling it to execute all of the bash rc files. Basically, it's like a clean root login, and you end up in your root folder. See, we are now in root folder. It's like a clean login as root, but if you don't do it with -i, you will end up not executing root startup script, and you will stay in the previous directory where the user was. The message tail. Okay, tail minus. I don't understand. Man tail. C -f should follow. Output append data as the file grows. Okay, let's try with the capital F. I don't know what's the problem here. I don't know what's the problem here, but basically what I want to do is the message. Let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. Watch -n1. This is to repeat the command every 1 second. Then do the message grep tail. Is this possible? Yes, it is. Okay. So what this is doing is retrying every 1 second, as you can see here, and it's doing the message, and it's piping through the tail command. The tail command by default outputs only the last 10 lines because the file is huge. And what I wanted to do is unplug my USB stick. And when I unplug it, you will see USB disconnect device number 5. And let's, I don't have anything specific here, but let's just plug it back in for the shits and giggles, right? I plugged it back in and see it is getting detected. USB mass storage detected. Write protect is off. It's listing file size, information about what you have plugged in, something about write cache, and which device it has mapped to. So when you freshly, the most useful information is when you're manually mounting everything on your not so automatic and modern Linux system. When you plug it in, you will go through the dbus command, see which device is it, and mount it for yourself. Basically, that's all I wanted to say, but I might have complicated it a little bit too much. In current Linux distributions, udev is responsible for identification and configuration of devices already present during machine power-up, cold plug detection, and the device is identified while the system is running, hot plug detection. udev relies on sysfs, the pseudo file system for hardware-related information mounted in sys. So tail is just show the end bit of the dbus. A tail command is to show you the last part of any file. For example, let's go ahead. Okay, let's cancel this. Let's go to etc. So, I don't know, some big file here, sddm-conf. So, do you know what sddm is? sddm is the login manager for the graphical user interface. The thing, it's a daemon that pops up in most today's Linux distributions that use KDE Plasma. It's the thing that welcomes you and gives you a chance to enter your password. That's sddm. So it has some configuration file. So let's cut sddm-conf. Unfortunately, there is nothing in it. sddm-conf-d. No, this one is too small. Okay, let's go with the console-conf. Okay, this is also small. Okay, let's cut password file. That might be a bad idea to do on the stream. Let's go with, I want a big file. Let's go with first tab. This one is not so big, but it's big enough. Milton Finity, I'm thinking about using Fedora KDE Plasma for permanent for my game development. Let's talk about that at the end of the stream. I think we are getting closer to the end of this first lesson. So first tab. Let's first tab. It's so ugly to watch like this. I need a simpler file to show you, but basically, look, you're cutting the whole file, right? With the command cut. Cut just prints out the whole file, and you need only the last 10 lines. Okay, you type tail, and the tail gives you only the last. Is this 10 lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, this is 10 lines. Okay, so the tail gives you 10 lines. Tail minus, I'm guessing because I don't know every command in the world, but I think the n goes as a number, and you want only the last line. See? So you're tailing the file, just the end of it, because usually you do this on the files which are getting generated. So for example, you want to see the log files, var log. So in the log directory, you will always see a lot of stuff that keeps getting generated. So if something is wrong with Pacman, the software that does your package management on Arch Linux, right? You can cut Pacman log and you can see that there is a whole bunch of lines, right? And you only need the last 10 lines, right? Let's do it like this. So you want to just see what happened at the end, because in some cases the file might be so big that listing it will take some time, especially if you're doing this on the server to which you're remotely accessing via internet and SSH connection. And if you cut some really large file, it might take like I don't know, half a minute to get it listed fully, but you only needed to see what happened at the end, right? So if you use tail, you will get your result immediately. Not just 10 lines of any text file. You can do more than just 10 lines, right? Or less. So man tail C, you can output the last number of bytes of the file. Follow should follow the file pacman log tail -f. I don't know why this is not working for me. Basically what tail -f does is it should not exit back to the terminal. It should keep tailing the file as it grows. So -n for the defined number of lines, yes. Also, never output headers. This is less important. Keep retrying if it's inaccessible. With S sleep interval. Okay, so this might free some of your resources if the file is too busy, so it will tail it only every time. And basically this is it. The message -w. Okay. Vladimir has found another way to tail the message, but it's not just the message. Tail -f should work on any file, not just on the message, right? So now that we know how to use the message with its integrated tail system, I will plug in my USB stick one more time in 3, 2, 1. There we go. It's outputting what is happening on the kernel level with drivers. Very useful. Hot plug is the term used to refer to the detection and configuration of a device while the system is running, such as when the USB device is inserted. The Linux kernel has supported hot plug features since version 2.6, allowing most system buses, PCI, USB, etc. to trigger hot plug events when a device is connected or disconnected. As new devices are detected, udev searches for a matching rule in the predefined rules stored in the directory etc udev rules.d. The most important rules are provided by distribution, but new ones can be added for specific cases. So let's give it a look. etc udev rules. So what do we have here? Literally nothing. So my distribution is currently not offering any rules, any specific rules, right? So the kernel is doing its own thing by default. Storage devices. In Linux, storage devices are generically referred as block devices because data is read to and from these devices in blocks of buffered data with different sizes and positions. Every block device is identified by a file in the dev directory. We have already been in that directory. with the name of the file depending on the device type, IDE, SATA, SCSI, etc., and its partitions. CD, DVD, and floppy devices, for example, will have their names given accordingly. In dev, a CD-DVD drive connected to the second IDE channel will be identified as dev HDC. Dev HDA and HDB are reserved for the master and slave device on the first IDE channel. So if you remember the old motherboards, give me a second. Okay, one of my previous computers here. Okay, so upside down for you. So these are not important at the moment, but this is the power supply, of course. This one here is for the floppy. It is usually a bit smaller than the IDE connectors, and most motherboards had two IDE connectors, right? So the first IDE connector would get SDA and SDB because on the IDE you can connect two devices, and both of these devices go on the same cable. IDE cables, most of them would have three connectors, one from the input and two for the output to your first hard drive and to your second hard drive. Your second IDE interface would also have two devices, one master, one slave. In most cases, people would just have one hard drive connected here and one CD-ROM connected here. And the reason why people would do it like that is because two devices that are master and slave on one IDE interface are sharing the, let's say, bandwidth. They are contending. Oh, I apologize. Yeah, crap. I apologize for this. Floppy IDE 1, IDE 2. You can have two. Sorry, I feel a bit embarrassed for dropping the microphone. You can have two devices connected to each one of the IDE interfaces on the old computers, right? And both of the devices connected to the same cable. Cable has three connectors, one for the input and two for the output to the devices. Master and slave device on the cable would contend for the communication with the motherboard. So usually people would put one hard drive here and one CD-ROM to the other channel, because when you would load something from the CD-ROM, and CD-ROM is a lot slower than the hard drive, then CD-ROM would slow down your hard drive a lot, and basically your system would slow down. It's not that big of a deal, but it was always more optimized way to put a CD-ROM on the second channel instead of pushing it with the hard drive, because that's just stupid. There's nothing really special here to show. Actually, I'm reading the top part and my picture is over there, so let's do it like this. In Linux, storage devices are like that, which is what we already read. So hard drives would usually be on HDA and HDB. This is the first channel, so master and slave on the same cable. on the first IDE channel, and an old floppy drive will be identified as dev fd0, fd1, etc. I'm just reading the chat. OpenMandriva has some rules in the rules D for cups, sane, etc. Okay. From Linux kernel version 2.4 onwards, most storage devices are now identified as if they were SCSI devices, regardless of their hardware type. IDE, SSD, and USB block devices will be prefixed by SD. For either disks, the SD prefix will be used, but the third letter will be chosen depending on whether the drive is a master or slave. In the first IDE channel, master will be SDA and slave will be SDB. Partitions are listed numerically. Paths dev SDA1, SDA2, etc. are used for the first and second partitions of the block device identified first, and dev SDB1 and dev SDB2, etc. used to identify the first and second partitions of the block device identified second. So we are going to press pause for a second for a small demo. Okay, so dev SDA is one of my SATA devices. I have two of them. When you open it with sysfs application, there is a way to delete partition, and this is a partitioning software, right? You can delete, resize, quit type, change the type of the partition. For example, the partition types can be a whole lot of stuff. This is very important for booting modern systems. What is this? Linux swap is important. Linux file system is important. Some of the RAID configuration. A lot of different stuff, right? So what you can see here is that my SDA drive has only one partition, so it's called SDA1, and there is nothing else on this drive, and the file size is 233 gigabytes, and it's identified as Linux file system. Let's go to SDB just to show you. So my SDB has half a terabyte Linux file system. It tells you where it starts and ends. These are sectors on the drive. It's called SDB1 because there are no other partitions. And one of the most likely reasons why there is 1 megabyte remaining at the end is because the software that I have used to partition this drive wanted to leave a tiny bit of space at the end to make sure. It would be lame to say that there would be no problems, but a lot of partitioning softwares tend to leave a little bit of space at the end, and some of them even leave a bit in the beginning, just so that the data are not pushed all the way to the end of the hard drive. The exception to this pattern occurs when memory cards, SD cards, and NVMe devices, SSD connected to the PCI Express bus. For SD cards, the path dev MMC multimedia card. It doesn't matter, there is not a multimedia card, but actually an SD card, but they present themselves as MMC something something something. The P1 is the partition at the end, P2 is the partition at the end, right? Are used for the first and second partitions of the device identified first and dev mmc blk 1 p1 and p2 etc. used to identify the first and second partition of the device identified as second. So K0 is the first device, K1 the second device. NVMe devices receive the prefix name NVMe. So this is very convenient because most of us refer to them as NVMe drives, as in NVMe 0 and 1 and NVMe 0 and 1 with partitions P1 and P2. I can show it to you on my drives here. NVMe 0 and 1, this is my first drive. It has 1 gigabyte FE system. This is where the boot stuff is being stored. The modern system cannot boot up without FE system unless you configure it in the old school way, but usually when you partition your drives, you will most likely have an FE system partition these days. The rest of it is just a Linux file system that I have formatted as butter file system. You can see it below here. There is another, or is there, NVMe 0 Do I have only one NVMe? Oh yes, I have removed the second drive. I have had 2 NVMe drives. Iceblade asks, is FE similar to UEFI? That's the same thing. FE is the partition that you need to have on your boot drive, which will boot the operating system. Let me show you. You can type df to get an overview of your file systems that are mounted, right? So if we go back to my NVMe drive, you can see that my FE system is the partition called NVMe 0 and 1 P1. Can you see it? NVMe 0 and 1 P1. And when you do the df, NVMe 0 and 1 P1, this is my FE partition, right? It's mounted on the path /FE, okay? And when you go to /FE, there is the FE subfolder in it. That was automatically generated by grub, actually. And you will see that grub has its configuration here. So you go to grub configuration, and you can see that it holds the FE file inside. And what the FE file is, it is the thing that UEFI system, what we call BIOS, right? This is what, it's not BIOS, but UEFI, right? UEFI system is calling this file here from this partition, and this partition always needs to be FAT, a FAT file system, right? So the BIOS can read it, and once the BIOS reads this grub, basically this is the grub software. It's grub executable, and the BIOS will load grub executable, and when it loads it up, at that point you will have grub bootloader on your screen. But grub needs to have its configuration, and if you want something to happen automatically, right? If you don't have grub configuration, you can still boot up your system, but you will need to know the exact command to type in order to load the kernel and everything else, right? So that's where grub configuration comes into play. It's usually in /boot cd grub, and you could see grub config, grub cfg. It is my configuration, right? Menu entry, Arch Linux. load video, modules, GPT, loading Butterfly system module. This is where the kernel is. This is the partition from where it is pulling. It is echoing something on the screen. So Iceblad says OHFI is the file, but UEFI like BIOS. In this context, Vladimir is not incorrect, but I'm just trying to explain what is currently on my screen. It is the partition, right? Let's go ahead. Guided exercises. I suspect that we are close to the finish. Suppose an operating system is unable to boot after adding a second SATA disk to the system. Knowing that all parts are not defective, what could be the possible cause for this error? Okay, so judging by what we have read so far, what do you think is the answer to this question? Let's read it again. Suppose an operating system is working with one drive, but is unable to boot after adding a second SATA disk to the system. What could be the possible cause for this error? Why the system is not booting after we have added another SATA disk to the system? I have some ideas what I would check. So you have a working system with one SATA drive, and then you add another one, and the system no longer boots. I mean, I would prefer if you would type in chat anything what you think. It doesn't have to be correct. I just want to see that you are using your brains. Iceblade asks, was it not partitioned? So you have a fully working PC with Linux with one SATA hard drive. It works, it boots. And then you turn it off and you add another drive and turn it on, and now it no longer boots. But it was booting before. So it is partitioned, at least the one, at least the first drive, right? Okay, so I can think of a couple of scenarios. The UEFI BIOS has how do you say it in English? It goes in a certain order. Let's say that your motherboard has 4 SATA ports, and let's say that you are only using the SATA 4 port for your hard drive. When you install, the first 3 are free, nothing is connected. So you have plugged your hard drive into the 4th SATA port, you have installed Linux, and everything works. Mark Carpenter says boot order in BIOS. Exactly. Vladimir Mishev is talking to Iceblade. Okay, so everything was working fine with one drive in the 4th port. And now you are forced to use one of the lower numbers of SATA ports with your new drive. And it just so happens that the new drive has something on it, because this question did not say that the new drive is clean, right? They just said that you have added a second disk. So you have added a second disk which has something on it, and it has a priority because it's on the SATA port that is closer to the first one, right? And the BIOS has just decided to boot from the second drive. This is one of my ideas what could have happened. So you would have to check in BIOS boot order. Basically, what it doesn't really matter what is on the new drive, but you want to go to the BIOS and you want to check the boot order, and you want to see what is booting up first. So if the new drive has something broken on it, BIOS might be attempting to boot that and not your actual wanted first hard drive. So in most cases, you don't even have to go to the BIOS. There is always a button on your keyboard that can lead you directly to the boot order picker. So on Lenovo laptops, it's F12. That button will, upon turning on the laptop, it will give you a list of all the bootable drives that it recognizes. And then you will see that the first one might be the new hard drive with something that you don't even want to boot from, right? And then you will just go below and click on your actual drive which you want to boot. It will boot up successfully, and then you will decide what you want to do with the new drive. Maybe you have maybe a friend has given it to you as a present and forgot to format it, and now you will boot up. Now you'll use F12 to choose to boot from your actual hard drive, boot your system, and then you will see your friend's data on the drive that has been given to you, and you will format it. And after reboot, everything will be working fine because there will be no FE partition on it. Yeah, the hierarchy, exactly. If I think harder, I might be able to come up with another scenario, but usually you will want to see in your UEFI what is the boot order. That is the goal. Suppose you want to make sure the external video card connected to the PCI bus of your newly acquired desktop computer really is the one advertised by the manufacturer, but opening the computer case will void the warranty. What command could be used to list the details of the video card as they were detected by the operating system? Okay, so you have purchased a computer and there is a warranty sticker on it. You cannot open it, disassemble, and you want to verify which video card is installed inside, and the video card is naturally on the PCI bus. Which command will list the devices on the PCI bus? This one is really easy. Tekladong says, I think new firmwares will detect bootable drives and will cycle which one will boot, and some will show list bootable drives. First question would be tricky. Yes, it's a bit tricky one for sure. Iceblade Potato Chip does not want to answer easy questions and has given the torch to the person who needs to answer this the most. lspci is the correct answer to this question. The following, good job, Iceblade. The following line is part of the output generated by command lspci. What command should you execute to identify the kernel module in use for this specific device? Okay, this one is hard. This one is legit hard. Which command do we need to execute to identify the kernel module in use for this specific device? You don't have to answer the exact exact command, just try your best by remembering. Go as close as possible. Okay, Iceblade wasn't paying attention on the class. Okay, so the answer is this same command, lspci. So lspci lists this, okay? And if you want to see which kernel module is in use, you will also use lspci, but you will, Vladimir is correct, but you will add more parameters to it, right? You need a -k to not just -v. -v is the second one. This is just to be verbose, but you need more. You need to specify. You need to specify this device. I guess. The. Okay, let's turn it around. Iceblade is actually correct. -v will identify the kernel module, but the problem with passing only -v to the lspci command is that it will give you the kernel modules for all of your devices, and then you will have to scroll through all of them. But if you use the -k, as Vladimir said, then you can pass this parameter here, the hex code of your device. So to list with the what Iceblade said, with the -v as verbose, to identify which module it is, right? You need both of them if you want a short output and concise. So while Iceblade is correct on his answer, my best educated guess is that the exam itself will attempt to trick you, and the correct answer will be -k hex code and -v, and there might be a second answer like ABCD. There might be a second answer which says only -v, which in my opinion does answer this question correctly, but the first one is more correct as an answer on the exam, right? Iceblade, yes, that is correct, but not just 03. You need to type the whole hex 03 a column 00.0. I don't believe that 03 will work on its own. You need the full address. A system administrator wants to try different parameters for the Bluetooth kernel module without rebooting the system. However, any attempt to unload the module with the mode probe -r Bluetooth results in following error. Mode probe fatal. Module Bluetooth is in use. What is the possible cause for this error? Why cannot you unload the Bluetooth kernel module with the command that clearly I almost spilled the water on my laptop. This actually is the command to unload the module. So why is it failing? Why is it not unloading? I have to give you a chance. Type any answer. It is failing because we have no enough chocolate in the room. A system administrator wants to try different parameters. I would say that the introduction sentence already uses sudo. Because it says system administrator. I sincerely doubt that system administrator does not know how to use sudo. So that's not the correct answer. One more attempt. Do it quickly. Who knows, maybe he forgot. Do you know this cartoon? This might fit. Do you know what that is? It fits the scenario here. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is that the module Bluetooth cannot be unloaded because it depends on other modules. That is, other modules are depending on this one. So you have to see, there is another command. You have to see which module depends. Of course, the device is still active, but you have to see which module depends on which module. So there will be another module. There is a command that lists the dependencies, right? We have been through that. Let me show you. Basically, you have to unload all of the modules that are connected to each other. You cannot unload just one module if some other module depends on that one. I don't have any more buffer here. Sorry, I'm trying to find its mode info. Not that one. There is no command in the history. But yeah, anyways, you don't need to answer this question. You don't need to know the exact command. It's just that you need to first fetch the dependencies, right, from the modules, and then unload both of them at once. That's the only way. It is not uncommon to find legacy machines in production environments, like when some equipment uses an outdated connection to communicate with the controlling computer, making it necessary to pay special attention to some peculiarities of these older machines. Some x86 servers with older BIOS firmware, for example, will not boot if a keyboard is not detected. How can this particular issue be avoided? We haven't went through this today, but do you guys know the answer? Just type "I don't know" and I will give you the answer. if the old device will not boot if a keyboard is not detected, how can you avoid this problem? Iceblade says plug in a keyboard. Okay, 1 point for Iceblade. Who will learn the second point? There is another answer. There is another completely different answer, but also a very valid one. Who is old enough to know the answer to this question? So in the old BIOSes, there is an option that literally says skip keyboard check. That's it. You just enable that. Mark is correct. Okay. Operating systems built around the Linux kernel are also available for a wide variety of computer architectures other than x86, like in single board computers based on the ARM architecture. An attentive user will notice the absence of the lspci command on such machines like the Raspberry Pi. What difference with x86 machines justifies that absence? Well, Vladimir, you will have to plug in the keyboard to reconfigure this, and then you can again plug it out. Usually you do that with servers. Usually you do that with servers because you want to leave the server somewhere unattended, and when you install it, you will use the keyboard, and later you will unplug it to save the space where the server will fit, right? But before unplugging the keyboard, you need to set this in BIOS so the machine can boot without the keyboard. So what difference with x86 machines justified the absence of lspci on a machine like Raspberry Pi? Raspberry Pi is ARM, Iceblade. It says so here, based on the ARM architecture. Okay, so the statement here might not be entirely true for every Raspberry Pi, but for the older ones, it is true because the older ones only have the USB bus. They don't have the PCI bus exposed in any way, because you cannot actually plug in anything that would be PCI on the older Raspberry Pis. I don't know if I have any here, maybe. I don't have any Raspberry Pis on my desk at the moment. Iceblade, Raspberry Pi 5 not only has PCI lanes, but it also has a PCI port on itself. So that's why I said that this statement might not be entirely accurate. Raspberry Pi 4 also has a PCI lane, but that one doesn't have it exposed physically, but it might have a command available. Raspberry Pi 3, to the best of my knowledge, has everything on USB. Even the network card is on USB. Okay, so 4 and 5 definitely have a PCI bus. But previous ones, I'm pretty sure they don't have it. Many network routers have a USB port allowing for the connections of an external device like a USB hard drive. Since most of these are using a Linux-based operating system, how will an external USB hard drive be named in the dev directory, assuming no other conventional block device is present in the router? If assuming no other conventional block device is present in the router, the USB hard drive will be SDA. No, TTY is the frame buffer console in Linux. The answer is SDA for any modern. Iceblade is not sure why, because all of the USB storage devices are sharing the SD naming scheme from all the way from kernel version. What did he say? Did he say it 2.4 or 2.6? I'm not sure what it says up there in the earlier text, right? So it will be SDA. If you remember, when we were plugging in the USB stick earlier, it was detected as SDC. Do you remember that? And why did it detect as SDC? Because I have two already connected SATA drives. So SATA drives and USB storage devices are sharing the same naming nomenclature. So in this case, assuming no other conventional block device is present, then it will get SDA. In 2018, the hardware vulnerability known as Meltdown was discovered. It affects almost all processors of many architectures. Recent versions of Linux kernel can inform if the current system is vulnerable. How can this information be obtained? Can you make a guess? I'm actually not entirely sure, but I'm just waiting if someone else will say the answer before I do. My best guess, how can we obtain the information if my system is vulnerable to meltdown, is to simply ask our Linux kernel, and doing that through the msg command. That's my guess. Kernel would know, yes. To determine if your Linux system is vulnerable to meltdown, you can use the Spectre meltdown check script. Then run the script. Okay, the bot thinks that. Let's go to ask Ubuntu how to check and patch meltdown. How to check. Okay, let's not go to Windows Central. Meltdown and Spectre and Quora. Okay, let's try to get the answer. I said the message command, but maybe that's not the right answer. If you have a Core i family process, it's vulnerable. There is no answer here that I was looking for. Meltdown is a chip-level security vulnerability that breaks the most fundamental isolation between user programs and operating systems. Spectre Meltdown Checker is a simple shell script that can be run. That's what the AI said. The latest Linux kernels have been redesigned to defang this processor security bug. Therefore, update your kernel version and reboot the server to apply the update as shown. Basically, update your kernel, but the question was not how to update, but recent versions of Linux kernel can inform if the current system is vulnerable. How can this information be obtained? So the question is, how do you find out if your system is vulnerable, and not how do you protect yourself? So you can protect yourself by updating the kernel, okay. But we still did not get the proper answer, except that script. Okay, once again there is a script. So I suppose it's the script, right? Vladimir found an answer that is much closer to what I have expected. Let's try it. There we go. Vladimir wins. Honestly, I thought that, you know, when the kernel is booting up, usually it is telling you what hardware is detecting, what CPU it has detected, what bugs it is now preventing. So I really thought that the message could do that. Let's ask a follow-up question. Look, I might have been correct actually. You can also check for meltdown vulnerability using the message command. To do this, go type the message grep and this particular information. Kernel user page tables isolation. If your kernel has the page table isolation, enabled, you should see a message indicating that kernel user page table isolation enabled or PTI is enabled. If you see this message, it means your system has the necessary mitigation to protect. The availability of this information output depends on your system configuration and kernel version. So this might not be actually ideal. Yeah. I think I think what I thought that would be the correct answer actually might not be that good. What Vladimir found is actually perfect. So you simply go to sys devices and cut the vulnerability file, right? I did not know this. Vulnerabilities, cut everything. Okay, so we are unaffected by some of these files. Let's see, man, cut, show all, show ends, squeeze, show tabs, version. Let's see, gather data sampling, not affected. It LB multi-hit, not affected. L1TF, not affected. MDS, not affected. Meltdown, not affected. MMIO stale data, not affected. Reg file data sampling, not affected. Ret bleed, not affected. Spec rstack overflow, mitigation safe ret. I suspect that this tells me that my CPU is vulnerable to spec rstack overflow, and we would need to find out what this overflow is before we can educate ourselves a bit more. Spec store bypass, mitigation, speculative store bypass disabled via process total. We need to see what this message actually means. Maybe it's not affected, but we need to understand what the answer means. Spectre version 1, mitigation, user copy, swap.js, barriers, and user point and sanitation. It could mean that my system is vulnerable to this. Also to Spectre version 2. Not affected, not affected, maybe actually not. Well, Mark Carpenter, I suspect the script would be an easier way, because the script probably tries to use the vulnerability to trigger it, right? But we now know for sure that the script exists, and we actually can download it and try it out, and that will give us 100% answer. But also we can verify. I don't know where Vladimir Mishev pulled this information from, but wherever he pulled it from, there might be more information on that web page about the results of these outputs of these files, right? What the output can give us as an information. This lesson covers the general concepts on how the Linux kernel deals with hardware resources, mainly in the x86 architecture. The lesson goes through the following topics: how settings defined in BIOS UEFI configuration utilities can affect the way the operating system interacts with hardware, how to use the tools provided by a standard Linux system to obtain information about the hardware, how to identify permanent and removable storage devices in the file system. The commands and procedures addressed were: commands to inspect detected hardware, lspci and lsusb; commands to manage kernel modules, lsmod and mode probe; hardware related to special files, either the files found in the dev directory or in the pseudo file system in prots and sys. Answers. Okay, we have answers. Let's go through that. Is that Vim editor? Del Anderson asked. That wasn't Vim editor, that was Midnight Commander. Midnight Commander is not an editor, it's a file manager, I guess. Suppose the operating system is unable to boot after adding a second SATA disk to the system. The boot device order should be configured in the BIOS setup utility, otherwise the BIOS might not be able to run the bootloader. So we were all collectively correct on answering that question. Suppose you want to make sure the external video card connected to the PCI bus is the one that you bought. What command could be used to list the details of the video card as they were detected by the operating system? Command lspci will list detailed information about all devices currently connected to the PCI bus. I don't remember this question, or am I being senile? The following line is a part of the output generated by the... I remember. Iceblade answered this one. Okay. The following line is a part of the output. Okay, so Vladimir was wrong. Partially. What command should you execute to identify the kernel module in use for this specific device? So we need to use the K and it's or. It's or. So with the S we pass the hex value, and what Vladimir thought is K here, and then what Iceblade says -V, so it's S and not K, or we can use S and then K. We all missed, yeah. But what I wanted to trigger from you guys in chat is that you should be aware that the lspci indeed is the command that will give you the kernel modules. You just need to add certain parameters. So on the exam itself, most probable scenario will be a questionnaire like A, B, C, and D. And one of these four will indeed be this command here. And the other three answers will be something completely different. So it is generally enough to remember that there is an S and K, and in the offered answers in the exam, you will most probably be able to eliminate the wrong answers. There will always be one answer which is clearly wrong, and there might be another answer that is very obviously wrong, and then you will get to pick between two of them, right? This is the most common scenario in many exams. But knowing the parameters would definitely help. A system administrator wants to unload the Bluetooth module, right? So my answer was actually false. What is the possible cause for not being able to... Module Bluetooth is being used by a running process. I failed you. And you failed me. Nobody was correct on this one. Module Bluetooth is being used by a running process. And I thought that we cannot unload the kernel module because another module depends on this one. Although that might be true as well. But clearly the answer is what the screen says. Answers to exploration exercises. It is not uncommon to find legacy in machines, like when some equipment uses an outdated connection. How can we resolve that the machine will not boot without a keyboard? The BIOS configuration utility has an option to deactivate the locking of the computer when a keyboard is not found. So that was the second answer that I have given you, and not the one that said plug in the keyboard, right? Although that is the obvious one. Obvious operating system built like Raspberry Pi, why does it not have the lspci? Unlike most x86 machines, the ARM-based computer like Raspberry Pi lacks the PCI bus, so the command lspci is useless. But as I told you, the 4 and 5 do have, look, can you see the answer? The Raspberry Pi 2 does not have a PCI bus. Oh crap. The Raspberry Pi 5 does not have a PCI bus, it has a PCI Express. Is this AI screwing with me? It's the same thing from the perspective of lspci command. Okay, let's ask like this. Can we use lspci? Okay, this AI is stupid. Okay, we are getting somewhere, but what I'm trying to tell you is this. Chip, video card, HDMI, Wi-Fi, USB ports, gigabit Ethernet, PCI Express 2.0 with one lane. Okay, so it is really clear that Raspberry Pi 5 indeed has a PCI interface. Therefore, if you connect something to that, you can list it with the lspci command, is what I would say. However, let's find out the true answer to that question. Can you see where we are now? Can you see the host name here? This is my PeerTube server. see, model Raspberry Pi 5, okay? We are now on the actual Raspberry Pi 5. lspci command. So what have I been saying? You actually can use the lspci command on a Raspberry Pi 5. So the documentation from which we are learning is somewhat outdated, okay? We can see PCI bridge. We can see memory controller on the PCI bridge. We can see another part of this. We can see Ethernet controller also on PCI bridge, okay? Now let's go to my Raspberry Pi 2. Actually, the documentation that we are going through is from this year. You wouldn't believe it. But clearly they have a small bug. Okay, can you see on which device we are now? Raspberry Pi 2, okay? Can you see the answer? Okay, so ARM-based computers like Raspberry Pi lacks a PCI bus is questionable correctness behind that. Many network routers have USB port. So which block device would be if you insert a hard drive into the router with Linux, right? So someone says dev HDA, I think, and I said SDA. So see here, the answer is SDA. In 2018, the hardware vulnerability known as Meltdown. How can we know if we are affected? The file proc.cpu info has a line showing the known bugs for the corresponding CPU, like bugs CPU meltdown. I rest my case. None of the answers were the one that this documentation, this learning material has expected. But however, we have found by using our imagination, we have found multiple possible answers on how to acquire this information, right? So proc.cpu info. Okay, bugs. Vladimir, you are correct. I'm just pointing out to yet another way how we can find out the answers to our question. Okay? From the learning material through which we are going. And the reason why I'm insisting on this learning material is not because that your method is wrong. It's good. Not because the script on the internet is a bad method. That one is good as well. But once you get to the exam, you will want to make sure that you are also familiar with the way that this question is being answered through the learning material, right? Because when the question comes up in the test, there will be a correct answer and there will be the correcter answer, even more correct one, and then there will be the most correct answer. So this is the, that's how tests work. Dale Anderson says, can't see the answer. There is the answer. The file prots CPU info has a line showing the known bugs for the corresponding CPU, like bugs, colon CPU meltdown, okay? See? And then we went to my CPU and I cut the whole file and I grab every line that contains the word bugs. And then it listed the same thing 16 times in a row, because that's how many processors I have in my computer, right? Virtually speaking. So this is your answer here. These are the bugs on my processor that have been mitigated by my current kernel version. Okay, that's the answer. Lesson 101.2, boot the system. So what I said in the beginning of this stream is that I will do my best to cram as much as we can into one stream, okay? But as you can see, it took us how long? How long has this stream been going? I have no clue. 3 hours. We have been going for 3 hours through lesson 1, determine and configure hardware settings. So clearly I don't have the magical powers to go through another 3 hours of streaming. That's close to my maximum. How long can I sit in one place? Grep -m1 bugs prot CPU info will probably, as Vladimir says, this will probably list only one line. Yep. Only one line. So when you are a system administrator, you will be often in a situation where there will be a certain task. For example, you will be programming a script that will, let's say that you're programming a web interface where the guests would connect, and on this web interface the guests would have to know which bugs are present in this particular system, right? So what Vladimir Mishev has just done for us is that he has provided a command which we can run to list only the bugs and not list them 16 times in a row, because the user who will use our script or our web interface or whatever we are creating, they will only want to know about the bugs and not see the same thing for 16 times in a row. So this is a really, really good way to get the answer, and then you can pipe you can pass through this answer to a file which another program can read later, right? For example, tmp bugs. Okay, so what this did is, see, tmp bugs. So now you have an actual file with just the bugs in one row, and this is something with which you can work further on to pass through another program that needs this information, right? So the program does not need to know the same thing 16 times in a row. So you will definitely want to learn how to wield all of the GNU commands on Linux, right? Iceblade says, hope my random guessing was not slowing you down too much. Absolutely not. I actually want you all to participate along with me. As I said, I'm not the master of all of this. You have seen my mistakes today. I do my best guess, and then I enrich my knowledge by seeing later which is the place where I made a mistake. Then I later will go through the documentation and learn a bit more. And this is how you learn. You fix your mistakes by learning about what you did wrong, and then by practicing more and more on the same use case. Dale Anderson says, your presentation is very calming. I like the pace, and even though it just happened across live stream near the end. Dale Anderson, I will leave this stream video on demand watchable for the next 7 days. So in the next 7 days, you can freely rewatch the introduction part that you have missed if you want. Okay, now Vladimir Mishev is being, how do I put it? He is now grabbing just the bugs without the first two part. There we go. We have now removed the introduction to the line, right? I immediately knew what you did there, Vladimir. I just wasn't sure. I don't know all of these commands without looking up through the manual. Dale Anderson, the reason why I said I will leave the stream online for a week, because I am pretty sure that there will be people who will want to rewatch this, and I don't want to. You know, people cannot always hit a live stream as you did today. Let me just go back to my face, which is a bit easier. Iceblade says, looks like magic to me. Iceblade, let me just show you what Vladimir did. Man cut. So cut removes sections from each line of files, and what Vladimir used is cut -d and -f2. Okay, look, he used -d. It's a delimiter instead of a tab for field delimiter. So what Vladimir used, he used a colon as a delimiter, so it can recognize fields, right? So one field is before the column, and the second field is after the column until the next column comes. So this is the delimiter he used. And he also used -f2, and fields select only those fields. Okay, so what Vladimir did is he only used the field number 2. And let me show it to you one more time. Yes, so see, we are using grep with only one line where the word is bug in this file. And this is the result, okay? And what Vladimir did next is that he added another command on top of this command, and you always add another command by using pipe, and he used cut, it's not cut, it's cut, and he used the delimiter to be the colon, and because we only have one colon here, that means that our line only has two fields, okay? First field and the second field. And then we have pulled out only the second field in our entire line, and only the second field is this, okay? It is very easy to add more and more to the same command. And now Vladimir is doing I actually don't know what tr is, but let's find out. Man tr, truncate, translate or delete characters. Delete characters. He is deleting a new line. Iceblade F2 is keep second field, yes. Okay, let's not go through too many of these. Guys, I think we did very well. The reason why I haven't at all prepared for this stream is because I wanted to just let go, and as Dale Anderson said, the whole thing needs to be calming, right? People don't want to feel forced on anything, right? So if you guys were interested with this stream, then you have stuck around. If you weren't interested, you have already left. Both options are completely fine with me. But the reason why I haven't prepared too much is because I wanted to just let go and see how we are going to function together. And clearly I made a good initial, how do I put it, how I behaved naturally seems to be resonating well with you, and I guess that there isn't too much need to change, right, on the next Sunday. Yeah, so one of the things, let me just show you game stream and my browser. Okay, so one of the things that I did, I'm not sure if I can magnify this. I actually can. One of the things I did a couple of days ago is I have enabled memberships with a really, really symbolic price. YouTube does not allow me to put a smaller price than this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this video on demand stream to stay public for everyone who wasn't able to join for the following week, right? For the 7 days, it will stay public. And anyone who missed the stream and is interested in watching it is completely freely available and free to watch the entire stream without the need of joining my channel, right? But one of the reasons why I did this is because I will be investing a lot of my time in this, and I wouldn't say basically I could do something, I could be doing something else, you know, but I do want to get a reasonable, how do I put it? I don't want anyone to feel forced to give me any money, okay? I want to put it on a scale and give you guys all a chance to participate in a live stream completely free and to participate in rewatching the video on demand for the whole 7 days after the stream, because if you don't find time to watch the stream in 7 days, then there is a really good chance that you're not interested in this content. And I believe that you agree with that. However, after the 7 days, I will hide this particular video on demand behind this visionary paywall, which is €1, and it could be another currency in your country if you're not in the Eurozone. And all that this will do is that those people who are joined to my channel will be able to rewatch all of my live streams back to all of them whenever you want. But if you don't join my channel, then you will be able to participate in the live stream, and you will be able to rewatch it for the 7 days until the next live stream comes. And my plan is to do this every Sunday. And when we finish the next stream, the next Sunday, then I will leave that one in public, and I will hide the today's one for my channel members. As Blaze said, I got 2 questions correct. Yeah, this style is great. Let us partake and not feel left out. I would not like it any other way. Dale Anderson says yes. Vladimir says an excellent stream. I usually don't have patience, but this was fun all the way, especially since I'm not a Linux user. I'm glad to hear. Mark Carpenter, thank you. Very good information here. I like the atmosphere and the pace of the information presented. Nothing like this anywhere else. I'm actually really glad to hear this, because I was afraid that a part of me was afraid that nobody would show up on the stream, or people would show up and leave immediately, because the content is fairly easy, but it will ramp up. It will get harder. So, it is what it is. And I absolutely don't want to force anyone to be giving me the money, but I do want to present a reasonable scenario to everyone who is interested in this kind of content to feel okay with giving me €1. I think this could be good in the long run, right? There we go. Mark Carpenter is now with a gray hat and already ready for the next stream. So thank you very much for joining. You are the member number 2. You already have one from a couple of days ago. Mark Carpenter, please type something in chat so we can see your new hat. While Mark is trying to think what he's going to type next, I just wanted to show you what I have put in this membership, right? So loyalty badges next to your name in comments and in live chat, you will see that, or Mark Carpenter, okay, you can see that he is green as a member, and now he has a gray hat, and the gray hat is here, and after 1 month he will get a blue hat, okay? And it's not every month because YouTube did not allow me to modify the times, right? It's 1 month, 2 months, I think 3 months is for the yellow one, then it's 6 and 12 and similar, right? But the colors will be changing, and at one point you will look exactly like I do in the end. And you can use these custom emojis in the chat, like this. See, both of you, Dale Anderson, welcome to Visionaries. I have added a couple of emojis, right? So you can already use them in chat. There is a couple of more things that will come with the membership, photos and status updates. I usually post public comments, but occasionally I might post something more private that I don't want the whole internet to see, so that will be hidden just for members. Mark Carpenter says, I'm assuming this will start as 21 UTC next Sunday. You mean just as today? Okay, give me, all of you in chat, give me a feedback. The moment when this stream started today, is that a good time, or would you like to start an hour earlier, or maybe 2 hours earlier? So today we have started at 9 o'clock English time, like London. I am in UTC +1 zone, Croatia. So for me, this started at 8 o'clock, but UTC is 1 hour earlier, so that is 9, right? What I am asking from all of you, would you like to start again at the same time? Or would you like to start an hour earlier, or maybe 2 hours earlier? I'm a bit flexible in the evening, so I can... Iceblade says I prefer current time and not earlier. Okay. So Mark Carpenter, the possible answer to your question, judging by the Iceblade answer, is that yes, we're going to start again at 9 o'clock UTC. Is that too late for you? I don't know which time zone you are, but as you're using UTC, I suppose you are from the UK. Okay, so also good for Mark. Vladimir, actually Dale Anderson, are you okay with the same time? Vladimir is flexible. Okay, Dale Anderson, same time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Dale will say that it's okay. So we are staying at the same time then. Oh, California. So that's like 9 hours behind from me. Okay. Okay. Sundays are chill, right? I just wanted to go through these perks, right? Oh, crap. Okay, so early access to new videos, this is nothing special actually. The way I upload my videos, and I'm not talking about live streams, I'm talking about my general videos. The way I upload videos is that I first put them on YouTube and they are completely hidden. And then I need to sort through all kinds of details like timings of certain sections of the video and those special cards that pop up. And when I'm finished with YouTube, it's still hidden. And then I go to the, but generally at that point I'm finished with YouTube, but nobody can see the video. And then I go to my PeerTube, and in my PeerTube I type the URL from my YouTube, and my PeerTube server just pulls everything from YouTube. It just sucks it in, and it's all very automatic. But my PeerTube server is a Raspberry Pi, and it's slow, and it needs to transcode the video, and that takes a while. And then I go to Odyssey, and on Odyssey I just upload the video, and it's also hidden. So at that point I have 3 hidden videos which are ready to go. I'm just explaining how I usually do it. And the thing what I will do here, the moment when the video is ready on YouTube, I will let it go to you guys who are members, and the rest of the public will get the video in like 1 hour later, not because I'm evil, but because I want PeerTube and Odyssey and YouTube to be released at the same time. And my PeerTube server is very slow in transcoding, so I have to wait for that one to be ready so I can just push all 3 at the same time. So what I will do is just give the visionaries a chance to watch the video roughly an hour before everyone else. Nothing special. It's just a token of gratitude. Nothing too gatekeeping. Members only live chat. So what you're doing here, you're all live chatting with me. 2 of you are members. The rest are not members. I don't expect that I will ever need to do a members only live chat. The only case where I can see that I will use this option is that if my streams become, let's say, too popular and the chat is too busy. Okay, what I mean by too busy is that too much is going on and it's not readable anymore. If this ever happens, I will make my chat members only live chat. So basically I will cut the ability from non-visionaries to type in chat until it calms down. This is extremely unlikely to happen on my stream because I'm not Asman Gold or Mutahar, or I'm not Linux Tech Tips, or you see where I'm going with this, right? Priority reply to comments. So sometimes I make videos that are slightly more popular than the other ones, and I get a lot of comments, and I will just filter out those of you who are members and reply to all of you first, and then reply to everyone else, because I always reply to everyone. This is just what I do. I'm just going to change priorities a little bit, but I always reply to everyone, so it doesn't matter too much. Plus, what I said with these live streams, everyone will see them for a week, and then just visionaries. Okay, do you guys have anything else to chat about? I have it's 11:19 here. I guess I have, let's say, 10 more minutes to chat about whatever you want. If you want, and if you're interested in more chat, you can join my Matrix chat. This is pretty much it. The link to join my Matrix chat is in every of my videos. So you just need a Matrix chat client. Even the web works if you use the Element web interface. Here I'm using the client called Neko. This one is natively compiled for Linux, not a web technology one. Iceblade says, I have no further questions, Your Honor. Like in, like when talking to a judge. Okay, guys, are we wrapping this up? It's a little bit quiet here. My chat is here, so that's why I'm looking at that direction. Oh, I forgot something else. There is one new tab in my channel for Mark and Dell next to the community, right? It's called membership. And in membership, you will see my previous live streams that are members only. So if you go to the, for example, Open Mandriva, right? If you go, let me just move myself out of the way like this. If you go to my last live stream, Open Mandriva, you can see here Bernard Rosenkranzer. I'm not sure how readable this is on your screens. Okay, so Bernard Rosenkranzer is the president of Open Mandriva Association and also a developer on Open Mandriva. He was, I have invited him to my live stream the other day, and he joined, and he has been answering a lot of questions that people have been asking, like stuff by Max, Tridence. Who else was in chat? Alexei, he is often in my streams. Tridence again. Basically, Bernard has been answering a lot of questions regarding Open Mandriva. That is all that I wanted to say. So that is some of my past live streams that are for members now. There was some just chatting. That one I actually never published anywhere because it's a little bit embarrassing. I don't want anyone. I don't want everyone to look at this stream. But it was fun. It was fun. Also, I added 3 emojis: Red Hat, Arch, and a hyperlink. And I have 1 more slot available. Maybe at this point I have more slots, but someone out of the other members has already voted that I should add Debian emoji. So vote, please, or comment. There is a welcome message for you and a couple of more previous live streams. Vladimir says that was a great stream. You're talking about the Open Mandriva stream with the Open Mandriva boss, right? I would agree with this. That was an awesome stream. Dale says, thanks for this. May have more questions after reviewing video. Start any resources. Okay. I will do it like this. When I end this stream, YouTube, I think, needs to re-encode it, so it might not be live immediately, but it's not up to me. It will be live as soon as YouTube finishes recoding it. So I don't know, just refresh the page and see where it's live, when it's live. Also, the documentation from which we have been learning today, I will link it as a PDF file, as a link to the PDF file in this same video down below. That's the answer for Dale Anderson, okay? I will, if I find any of value to the lesson today, I will link everything below this video. starting with the link to the PDF file from which we have been reading. And most likely I will change the thumbnail, so don't get scared if there is no more penguin on the thumbnail. I will put on the thumbnail the name of the lesson today. Okie dokie, let's close the shop for today. And Vladimir says, I was considering passing lipids some years ago, even reading some documentation, but then my health went to from bad to beep, and I gave up. So this is perfect. Mark has another vote for Debian. Okay, I'm going to add the Debian icon in that case. Guys, let's close the shop, and I'm gonna see you in one of my next videos or next Sunday. Thanks, Del. Where is the button to end the stream?